How many did you say? Miss Ricky's scale ridges flared upward as she turned to stare at Caden. Her tone wasn't angry yet, but it was sharp enough to cut through the quiet clink of lunch prep. Caden didn't look up. He was focused, laying a single slice of pickle with surgical precision on his sandwich. 1,000, he said casually. I think I misheard you. You didn't. Miss Ricky's ridges furrowed now, her expression tightening with disbelief. She turned fully toward him, eyes narrowing. 1,000 Rowans? That's absurd. You said the same thing about the 200 your last month, Caden replied, wiping his hands on a napkin. Then we watched them unload right outside Bay 6. That was different. Ricky's tail gave a twitch. Rowans aren't even Confederation citizens. What in the stars would possess the military to train 1,000 of them? No clue, Caden said, finally meeting her gaze. All I know is the engineers were already talking about it by the time the ships docked. News hit the back channels before the brass even sent the briefing. Ricky snorted and turned back to her own sandwich. She was already halfway through her second build and hadn't slowed down. Zamra metabolism didn't play around. Where Caden could survive off one sandwich and a bag of chips, Ricky needed at least triple that just to maintain body mass. She was Zamra through and through, sleek, sharp-featured, with glinting blue scales and a draconic grace that made most humans turn to watch when she passed. But right now she was scowling like an angry chef. And where exactly are they supposed to house and train 1,000 green-blooded volunteers? She asked. We don't even have enough qualified trainers. Caden shrugged again, not bothering to remove the slice of cheddar still stuck to his forehead from earlier. Don't ask me. Maybe they're shipping them to the same base Frin was stationed at. Ricky froze for half a second. Then she kept assembling. Thought so, Caden said with a sly grin. You like her? I respect her, Ricky said flatly, slathering a thick swipe of mayonnaise onto her final sandwich. That's not what your tail says. Ricky glanced down, only to realize her tail had started flicking back and forth. She hissed at it, as if willing it to behave. I'm just saying, Caden went on, you never say her name with a frown, not once. You're reading into things again. Caden reached for a chip from his plate, pinched one between two fingers, and gently offered it to her. When she opened her mouth to retort, he placed the chip right on her tongue with a grin. She bit it, chewed, and smirked. You lie to me all the time, she said, tail curling behind her as she stood, plate in hand. You never complained about the baby oil thing? Caden called after her. It felt essential at the time, she shot back, walking into the living room with the sway of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Their shared apartment wasn't much, standard Confederation issued for a civilian military liaison and his extraterrestrial cohabitant, but it was cozy, and Caden kept it stocked with foods Ricky had grown to love: sour cream chips, earth bread, that miracle of human chemistry known as mayonnaise. Mayonnaise had been a surprise to most starborn species. No one in the stars had ever thought to mix egg yolks and oil into a creamy, tangy spread. Earth's unique use of chicken eggs, and Earth's disturbing obsession with putting that spread on everything, had turned it into a black market commodity among some species. The Auror had, infamously, cornered 60% of the galaxy's mayonnaise imports. Some humans were now raising backyard chickens purely for egg profit. As Ricky plopped down onto the couch, their muncat, Squishmallow, tried to leap up beside her. She hissed sharply, and the creature hissed back, puffed up like a throw pillow, and fled behind the furniture. Caden wandered in a moment later, still balancing his plate and still wearing the slice of cheddar stuck to his forehead like a ridiculous badge. He didn't seem to notice, or maybe he just liked the reaction it got. So what's your theory? He asked, crunching into a chip. Why so many Rowans? They're not exactly known for toughness. Ricky stole another chip off his plate before answering. They're going where Frin went. Caden gave her a look. Because she's the reason the Rowan even considered enlisting. She made it through the training, through combat. If they're being sent anywhere, it's there. Caden smiled and shook his head. You really do like her. She's pivotal. That's all. You could have just said yes. Riki ignored him, biting into her sandwich like she wanted to tear the conversation in half. But Caden wasn't wrong. Frin was pivotal. And wherever she was now, the galaxy was watching. Frin collapsed onto her bunk like a dropped crate. She hadn't even bothered to take her boots off. The room still smelled like fresh paint and cleaning chemicals, too new to feel real. 3 days on this planet and it still didn't feel like Earth. It just felt loud. She sighed through her nose, tail twitching where it dangled off the edge of the bed. Her fur stuck to the inside of her uniform from sweat and atmosphere adjustment. Earth gravity wasn't that bad, but after months in space, it still hit hard. Her bones ached, her ears twitched, her back felt like someone had dumped bricks into it. Dagmar Prime was a long way off now. Home didn't feel like home anymore, not since her people had turned their backs on the Quai, those who joined the humans in open defiance of the Ural High Command. Frin wasn't just away from home, she was officially exiled. The paperwork alone had nearly killed her. Earth customs, local base entry protocols, interspecies medical clearance. She'd already been cleared by the corpsmen on her shuttle, but that wasn't enough for humans. Earth medics wanted to poke and prod for themselves, establish baselines, and confirm integrity post-drop. They were particularly curious how her skeleton had survived a full yak pod impact. Her x-rays were going to end up in some Earth medical journal. She was sure of it. Then came the roomkeeper. Captain Loria had summoned her for a wellness check, though it had felt more like an interrogation. Frin didn't trust her. Loria smiled too much, and her eyes said nothing while her mouth moved too much. It felt like she already knew what Frin would say before she said it. Something was off. After the check, Sergeant Mackey arrived to pick her up. On time, dead silent, always a bad sign. They rode in his utility truck in awkward silence, Earth terrain whipping past in a blur of browns and greens. Frin stared out the window until it clicked where they were heading. "Why are we going to uniform supply?" she asked, glancing sideways at him. "I already have my kit. Everything's in my room." "You're missing one," Mackey said, adjusting his patrol cap and slipping his aviators back on. "No, I'm not," she growled. "I counted." "Not this one," he replied. "Come on, let's go." "Time's wasting." He was already out the door before she could argue. Frin growled, low and annoyed, but followed. She had a bad feeling in her gut, and she trusted her gut. Inside, the building didn't look like much. Rows of shelves, fitting rooms, tailors buzzing about with measuring tape and data pads. She'd expected maybe new boots or a jacket. What she got was a hard left turn, literally, into the training section of the building. Frin slammed her boots to a halt. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Training. I'm not here to train anyone." Mackey stopped, exhaled through his nose like a man who'd done this too many times. "Yes, you are." "I'm not a drill sergeant," Frin snapped. "You're not. You're assisting them. Command wants you here." "This isn't a request, Corporal." Frin folded her arms. "I didn't sign up for babysitting." "No, but you survived yak drops, frontline combat, close quarters engagements, and Mandarin raids," Mackey said evenly. "You're the highest-ranked Ural on active duty. You're a living example of what the Quai can become. These new recruits, they need someone like you." "I belong on a ship," she said, tail low now. "Or a drop pod. I'm not supposed to stay on a planet for months. This will take months." "You're not alone. Himmel and Zaytan are here too, in other companies." Frin's fur bristled at the names. Himmel likes being indoors. He's a cave dweller. Zaytan just wants to show off his fangs and swing his ego around. Well, you're stuck with them. Orders are orders. Frin opened her mouth to argue, but Mackie wasn't done. He leaned in just slightly, voice dropping like a card laid on the table. Specialist Rayburn is here too. Frin blinked. Rayburn? Yep, same barracks, helping train light infantry. Her tail betrayed her. It gave one short, sharp wag. Mackie grinned. Fine, she muttered, but I'm not happy about it. Never said you had to be. He turned and walked toward the fitting area. Come on, they're waiting. Frin followed, grumbling under her breath. She was quickly swallowed up by a trio of human seamstresses who didn't care about her mood. They worked with military efficiency, fitting her into a newly issued YBDU, Yoral battle dress uniform. It wasn't like the generic BDU garbage she'd been wearing for months. This was new, designed for Yoral specifically, high quality, breathable, practical, and tailored to their anatomy. There were buttons along the waist for tail access, tapered seams for stronger silhouettes, and modified cuffs to accommodate paw-like feet. Even the collar allowed chest fur to breathe. She looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize herself. She looked powerful. The uniform hugged her shape in a professional, dangerous way. The way it fit her legs and chest was intimidating. She felt like she belonged in a propaganda poster, and she was blushing about it. An older woman came around the corner, clapping. My goodness, sweetheart, you look like a proper soldier now. Another seamstress, holding 7 identical sets, grinned. We finally got machines that can cut these properly. None of that teenager in daddy's clothes nonsense. And we figured out the hat, said the third, proudly holding up a modified Mod 1918 overseas cap. Cut it to fit around the ear, keeps a jaunty little tilt, clips inside to stay in place on all that fur. Frin tried it on. It worked. It looked good, too good. She could barely meet her own eyes in the mirror. Her mother would have hated it. With her arms full of new uniforms, her cap perfectly set, and the attention of nearly every soldier in the building, Frin made her way back to Mackie's truck. A human soldier tried to flirt with her as she exited. Tall, good jawline, smooth voice. Her tail wagged without permission. Mackie intercepted her just in time, dragging her to the truck before she could embarrass herself. As they drove, Frin noticed transport buses pulling up at the training compound. Her ears perked. Wait, we're here already? She asked. You're training, remember? Now, she squawked. Aren't I supposed to go through some instructor program first? You're not a drill sergeant, you're an assistant trainer. Get out. Go find the team. They're waiting. What about the rest of my gear? Rayburn will bring it over. You know where the NCO barracks are. Walk it. Mackie gave her a wink, slammed the truck door, and drove off. Frin turned to face the training compound, buses lined up like war elephants. From somewhere in the pit behind the buildings came the sounds of chaos, shouting, grunting, the dull thump of bodies hitting dirt. She remembered this place. The last time she stood here, she was fresh off the shuttle, still shaking from re-entry, bags in hand, and barely able to walk in Earth gravity. The drill sergeants had come for them like wild dogs, tearing through formations, screaming in faces, knocking bags out of hands. It was hell. Absolute hell. And she'd lived it. Now she was on the other side. Frin rounded the last bus and spotted 2 drill sergeants waiting. One was a short human woman with braided auburn hair and sharp, amused eyes. The other was a tall man, Midwestern by the look of him, broad-shouldered with a classic jaw and a heavy mustache. Corporal Frin? He asked, offering a handshake. Good timing. She shook his hand, read his name tape. Drill Sergeant Maxburn. He nodded toward the woman. Drill Sergeant Hirata. She'll get you set up. Hirata smiled. Hard to believe you were a trainee just a cycle ago. You were the pride of 313. Now you're one of us. From now on, you don't stand at parade rest for us or any other NCO. You're training staff now. The recruits, though, you make sure they show you that courtesy." Frin blinked. "Aye, all right, I'll do my best." "Just follow our lead," Max Burns said as they walked. "This is a big cycle, over 500 recruits. We're squeezed for space. You're our only non-human assistant, so you'll be introduced after us." They pointed her to a spot by a pillar near the formation area. She could hear the chaos now, clear as day. Barked orders, weeping, panicked fumbling. She peeked around the corner and saw the new recruits. Humans, tired, sweating, focused. Ural, her kind, smaller, trying to look brave but clearly rattled. Ears pinned, tails down, and the Rowans, nervous, stumbling, soft. Their wide ears twitched at every shout. One was already crying. Another tried to shield herself with her bag. They were all being broken down. First test. Lay out your belt kit properly. Nothing more. But even that had them in a panic. This was just the beginning. The captain stepped forward. Speeches began. Frin adjusted her cap, rolled her shoulders, and waited to be called. Her name echoed out over the compound. And just like that, Frin stepped into the light. Frin stood alone at the edge of the training field, watching the recruits run through the last obstacle course under a blood-orange sky. Missouri heat soaked the ground, rising in waves, blurring the horizon, but the recruits didn't stop. They moved like soldiers now, not perfect, not polished, but hard. Harder than they were when they arrived. She could see it in their eyes. Ural, Rowan, even the humans. They had all changed. Earth had seen to that. Their bodies were leaner, their movements sharper. Even the Rowans, soft-bodied and gentle-hearted, now bore scrapes on their arms and dirt under their nails. They didn't flinch when ordered. They didn't cry when pushed. They obeyed. They acted. They endured. Frin's tail flicked once behind her, slow and thoughtful. It had taken weeks of agony. The gravity alone had nearly broken them in the beginning. Bent spines, shredded calves, hips that screamed through every march. Some of them collapsed, some of them begged, and a few, just a few, tried to quit. But none of them did. Not after Frin made herself known. The legend had grown fast. The Devil Kwai, the humans called her. Yinga, whispered the Ural. The Roan had no name for her, but bowed their heads when she passed. Her presence alone was enough to make tails go stiff and ears flatten, and that was exactly what she wanted. She'd run with them at dawn, muscles screaming from her own drills. She'd snapped at them when they dragged their feet, cursed them out when they slouched in formation, barked into their faces until they learned what a straight spine felt like. They'd learned to move under her shadow, to duck when she shouted, to listen, and she had hit them, not with cruelty but with precision, with intent, with instruction. The male Ural who shoved her during week 2 never even finished saying the word back before she had put him on the ground. Broken nose, teeth missing. She'd been kinder to the second group that tried to ambush her. She only shattered a tail that time. Corporal Frin trains like war is tomorrow, Drill Sergeant Hirata had said one day, half in awe, half in warning. Because it might be, and Frin had. The recruits now stood straighter when she entered a room, not because she demanded respect, but because she commanded it. It radiated off her in waves, from her scars, from her muscles, from her gaze. But there was more to it than strength. What none of them knew, what Frin never said, was that she was terrified the whole time. Terrified of failing them, of not being enough, of being the only Kwai in the room and still falling short of what the humans expected her to be, of what she expected of herself. She remembered the nights she fell asleep still in her sweat-soaked uniform, curled on Specialist Rayburn's couch, too exhausted to move. Rayburn would quietly brush out her fur, stroke her ears, and whisper things she couldn't bear to hear when she was awake. It was the only time Frin let herself feel soft. The rest of the time, she had to be hard, forged, ready. There were recruits now, some of them not much younger than her, standing under this same sky with steel in their bones. Because of her. She watched the final Rowan, the one who used to cry during inspections, lift herself over the wall with a determined growl. Her body trembled with exertion, but she didn't stop. Frin exhaled slowly. That girl hadn't made it over a single obstacle the first week. Now she was leading. She looked down at her hands. The knuckles were still bruised from hand-to-hand training. Her palms had calluses the size of credits. She flexed her fingers once, then glanced over to where Rayburn was watching from a bench, arms folded, smiling. Frin didn't smile back, but her ears perked up. She didn't need to smile. Not yet. A whistle blew. The course was complete. The last run of the last cycle was done, and in the center of the field, 200 Ural, 150 humans, and 150 Rowans stood in a ragged but unified formation, drenched in sweat, legs trembling, eyes burning with victory. Frin stepped forward and walked across the field. Her boots crunched against the gravel. A hush fell over the ranks. She moved in front of them and turned, slowly. They watched her like she was carved from the earth itself. Her voice was steady, low, and clear. "When you arrived, you were soft," she said. "You wept. You collapsed. You wanted to quit." Some of them flinched, others held her gaze. "You thought Earth would break you," Frin continued, her tone rising. "And it did. That's the point." She opened her arms. "This world was not made for you. It crushed you so it could rebuild you. It buried you so you could rise." Her voice cracked like thunder now. "You are not what you were. You are no longer children. You are no longer citizens. You are no longer civilians. You are soldiers of Earth, warriors of the stars." Silence. She let it hang for just a moment. Then she raised her fist, and 200 fists rose with hers, some Ural, some human, some Rowan, all clenched with the same silent promise. They had endured Earth. They had been forged on it. Frin stepped back, letting the moment stand on its own. Drill sergeants moved in behind her now, lining up for final inspection. Flags were being raised, names were being called, but Frin just walked. She crossed the field, past the line of recruits, past the benches, past Rayburn, who stood now watching her with a look Frin wasn't ready to face, and back toward the compound. Her tail swayed behind her, her ears tilted toward the wind. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She knew what she'd made. She'd made warhounds. And soon the galaxy would know too.